Hey, what's up? This is Zach with US Fitness Products. Today I'm going to show you how to assemble an Inspire M2. So the tools necessary for this machine, predominantly you're going to be using a 17 millimeter socket and wrench. Go ahead and get yourself a hand ratchet as well, because you'll likely need to use that. And then I would also suggest a full set of Allen keys. If you have impact rated ones, that would be great. If not, hand tools will work fine. Pretty easy. You just grab this guy right here. And of course, this is after you've already unpackaged everything. I know there's a lot of stuff in that box that you got to get through. So we'll take this backing plate that's right here, and we just go ahead and we take our bolts. They're going to go on the most outside holes. What I like to do is get the first one in there and go ahead and get the washer and nut on there so I don't have to worry about it popping out as I'm trying to put on this second bolt. All right, and just like every machine here, we're going to leave all of this loose until we get to the end. All right, so our next step is going to be inserting the guide rods. This is what's going to hold all your weight stack in place. The way we do this is we go ahead and install it right here. We have these two bolts that come up from the bottom. We're going to basically just attach this guy. Again, we want to make sure we don't cross-thread. It's a big part of the game here, is not cross-threading your bolts. Okay, and we got this guy in place. All right, next thing we install is the plate that your shield will attach to. This uses a cloth shield, and you need to make sure that this single hole right here is facing the back of the machine. And we just set it in place, and we got these bolts and washers right here. We just go ahead and tighten those down. These are an example of bolts that we can fully tighten out the gate. So you just grab your 17 millimeter. And we'll get those nice and tight. Next, we'll be installing these guide rods. Guide rods are pretty simple. You literally just insert them through the top of that guide rod plate that we just installed. And then you will see on the back side here, there is a little area for your bolt. So we're going to feed that all the way through. Boom, all the way through to the other side. And then we go ahead and we'll attach our nut. And then we just do the same for the other side. If that's the case and you can't get them to come through this hole right here, I would suggest either loosening your base, because sometimes the base is already too tight, or taking your drill and drilling it through the hole. Those threads, they'll catch and it'll drive itself through. The only downside to doing it like that is there is potential to damage that bolt. And now your guide rods are installed. So your next step is going to be installing this main center mast. It's pretty easy to do. If you have an extra set of hands around to help you, I would suggest maybe getting them, because there is a little bit of weight to this thing, but you can do it by yourself, and I'll show you how. So what I'll usually do is, since this sits directly on the frame, is I'll go ahead and set it on the frame like I have it here, and get that top bolt in. Once you get that top bolt in, that bottom bolt's pretty much a shoe-in. You may have to do a little bit of adjusting to get it to go through that hole, but it should be much easier than it would have been otherwise. And just like that, your center mast is installed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the top of your shroud hanger. Again, we need to make sure that this back hole is facing the rear of the machine. So what we'll do is we'll take these guide rods and we'll put them on the other side here. And what we're doing, this is basically just kind of a placeholder. It's because we're gonna have to come back here, take this off, and put on the weight stacks. But this basically just lines the machine up so that it's not swaying to and fro whilst you're trying to do the rest of the install. Otherwise, it could make the installation of the top of this machine much more difficult. So, like I said, this just kind of holds everything in place until we're ready to put the weight stack on. The next step is going to be installing the top part of this. So first thing we do is we need to go ahead and hang this back side. So what I'll do is I'll put that side in first. I'll grab my washer and my nut. I'll move over to the other side. Hang this bad boy here. Put on your washer and nut. Now you don't have to worry about it going all over the place. And we'll go ahead and get this side installed as well. So we go part of the way through, line this side up, push it the rest of the way through, hook there. Don't mind me, just gotta take these guys out real quick. Forgot those guys gotta come out. All right, there we go. And then we'll go ahead and put the washer and nut on this side. We're gonna leave these as loose as possible because we have to insert the press arm hanger. What we want is we want this kind of motion here where we can open this up so we can get that in there. So the next thing we're gonna do is install this press arm hanger. Easiest way to do this is, like I said, keep this part of the frame nice and loose so you can bend out the sides. We'll put in one side and then we'll pop in the other. That is pretty much installed. We have these additional bolts that will attach to them eventually, but what you need to do is you need to find your cushion bearings. So these are what we call cushion bearings. These are the axis by which your press arm will function. So, super easy to install. So installing these cushion bearings is very easy. Really all you need to do is just go ahead and put it on the arm hanger, push it into place, then you can take your bolts and go ahead and just hang it. It's really quite simple. When you're doing the other side, if you haven't already secured the first side, just make sure you push on it so you don't push it out of place. And then yeah, it's just washers and nuts, washers and nuts. So the last part of installing this press arm hanger is you have these two bolts right here. These are called button head screws due to the shape of the top of the screw. So you're going to take two button heads and you're going to put them into the hanger. Just like so. Again, we are not tightening all the way down until we get almost finished. And one of the final things for hanging this part is you need to do these two bottom bolts right here. Basically, this just lines it into place. So we're gonna use this pivot point here. You see how it pivots there? And we're gonna go ahead and move it into place and just get those bolts started. The book tells us that we're going to only be using this first hole for this. I believe on different models we may utilize the second hole, but for a standard base, we just use this first hole. So this particular machine has us install our pulleys before we run the cables. So first pulley that we install on this upper part is going to be a standard 3.5-inch pulley. We're going to be utilizing two spacers. So we go ahead and we put the bolt in, we catch the spacer, push the pulley up in there, catch the pulley, go to the other side, insert the spacer, Now, this could take a couple of tries. It's not the easiest thing to do. And that's it. That pulley is now installed. After that, we're going to do this front pulley as well as the lap bar hanger. So now I'm going to show you how to hang the lat pull down pulley. It's pretty easy. We just use the same spacers that we used on our previous pulley, and we hang it pretty much the exact same way. So we'll go bolt in, then we'll go spacer, we'll add the pulley, boom. Keep enough space on the other side so that we can go ahead and jam the spacer in there. There we go. We go all the way through. And we line through there. Now we just add washer and nut. And that pulley is hung. Next thing is going to be our bar hanger. That's this guy right here. You'll see that there is a full-sized spacer in the middle. That basically is also going to work as a guard for your cable so that your cable doesn't push up out of your pulley. And now this is fairly easy to install as well. You'll see that you have these little knobs on the back here. This little guy is just going to attach to the back. You go ahead and put your bolt in, then catch your spacer, push all the way through. Do the same thing on the other side. This will hook into that back hole as well as into that bolt. Then you're just going to add your washer and your nut. And now you have a hanger. That's where you're going to put your lat pull down. All right, so now that you have all of those pulleys installed, our next step is to route this cable. We can do this fairly quickly. So you have this end right here. That's the end that we're actually going to attach your carabiner to. But this, luckily for us, is thin enough that we can fit it through all of the pulleys. So if you come along on this side right here, I can go ahead and show you how we're going to do this. So first thing we're going to do is we're coming up from the weight stack. We're going to push this through this pulley. And then we're going to come back down this way, directly down from that pulley. Then we got this guy. This is our floating pulley. That's going to hang right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this cable all the way through, and it'll stop right there, so I don't have to worry about this floating pulley going all over the place. Next step is we're going to go ahead and push into this guy, and go ahead and push down from the tops, because you're going to want this to come all the way back down and pull it out through right here. Boom, there we go. So now our next pulley that we're going to use is going to be this guy. So we're going to come through here, right, all the way out through the other side, just like so. And now we're routing into the press arm. So first pulley in the press arm, we come around that all the way back. Oops. So now we're all the way back. We're going to go through this pulley all the way to the back. Then we'll route it back out the front way. You still with me? All right. From there, we'll go up through this pulley. All right. Now this pulley is going to go all the way back to the frame. We're going to push up through this pulley. We're almost done. Stick with me, all right? All right. Now that we've gotten through this pulley, we're going to go ahead and go through your main lat pull down pulley. So now we have everything going. We should be through the whole thing. So the next thing you're going to do is you will have a bag that has these little balls. Excuse me. There we go. So you'll have a bag that has these little black balls in it. Those are basically going to be your stopper. So you're going to take that black ball and you're going to push it until you hit this rubber grommet right here. Once you hit that, you go ahead and feed it into this. See how there's this slot right here? You feed it into that slot, hang it like so. I'll usually take the bolt and I'll go through the slotted area. Because if you use this guy and you go through the slotted area, you'll still have the ability to move up and down. So I put the main bolt through the slot, connect it the other hole, and we can leave this hand tight for now. It doesn't need to be machine tightened quite yet. And that is the upper cable. We have that ran now. Okay, so our next step is to attach this cable right here. What we will do is you'll see we have a little pinhold here. So what I'll do is I will take off this side, this nut on this side, and underneath the washer, I'll go ahead and attach that guy. So that will be held in place there. And then our next step is to put it through a dual pulley system, which I need to just grab. So this is our dual pulley that we're going to route it through. I actually wouldn't qualify this as a dual pulley. It's literally just two pulleys on one rail. But calling it a dual pulley just, I guess, makes things a little easier. So this is how this will sit. I guess I'll just do this side first. And you want to do this way because if you try and do it when the pulleys are already on, you run into a likelihood of damaging your pulleys, which of course is one of the last things you want to do. Damaging these pulleys is pretty much the end of the game, you know what I mean? Like, you hurt these pulleys, you're gonna have to get new ones. There we go. All right. After a little bit of arduous, there, wasn't too bad. All right, now we're in there. That's how you get those double pulleys on. All right, so our next step is to install this floating pulley. The way we'll do that is there is a guard inserted on the inside of this. First thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and remove that guard. And then we will take our cable, we'll feed it through. And then we'll take this jam nut right here, go ahead and cinch it onto the cable, feed it up through the hole. Now you are in place. Next thing you need to do is to take that same guard that we removed and go ahead and reinstall it. What this is going to do is just keep that jam nut from going anywhere. It has a lot of back and forth movement. If it just happens to get caught, that jam nut can come flying out, and then your pulley comes completely off and you can no longer use the machine. So, installing this guard will make sure none of that stuff happens. And it's really easy. It's just 2 Phillips head screws. There's only really one way the guard can go in. If you try and put it in the other way, you won't be able to get the screws in. So, and as you can see with that guard in, now this pulley can't go anywhere. So the next thing we're going to install is the holder for your side pulley. This is what you're going to be able to use for your typical curling and low pulley exercises, you know, rows and those kind of things. So the way we install this is pretty simple. So this is your initial bracket. You're going to go ahead and just slide this in place. Take your bolts, feed them down through the top. And then you got your washer and nut on the bottom, just like so. There we go, now we're in place. Okay, so the next part of this is going to be this piece. This is the actual mount for the actual pulley system, which is this guy right here. So what we'll do is we'll take this bolt, we'll run it through the middle here, and then we'll run it all the way to the back. Sometimes you gotta get your head back there so you can actually line it up. Also, this receives a curved washer. You're just gonna wanna make sure it goes on in a direction that allows it to sit flush with the machine, just like so. All right. And then there's a slight bit of customization that you can do with this. So there are 4 holes that are on the inside of this. We're gonna mount it like this, which will give you your flattest outcome. Yes, sir. Yeah, if you can see right here, there's actually 4 holes back here. So we can mount it like that, or we can mount it like this. Obviously that's not as flat, but if you plan on working upward and more to the front of the machine, you can mount it like that. But if you want it standard, which is how we usually install it, we will install it flat like so. Then you take your 2 bolts and just go ahead and start them with your hands, because the last thing we want to do is cross thread these guys. And that's it for these. I will suggest you're going to want to tighten down these 3 bolts before you add this, otherwise you will not be able to get to those bolts. So that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and tighten those down next. And this is going to be your 17mm socket and wrench. You can go ahead and tighten those all the way down, just like so. And then you're going to install your actual pulley. You're going to have to go ahead and remove it, otherwise you will not be able to tighten down this bolt right here that actually bolts it into place. The pulley will just get in the way. So we'll go ahead and get that installed. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is going to be a 19mm or a 1/4 inch. Let's just double check. Yeah, so that's going to be our 19. I can grab that. So yeah, in order to tighten this one down, you're going to use a 19mm or a 3/4 bit. And this is one of the other few bolts that you're going to want to tighten down before you actually put it on the pulley. Otherwise, you will not be able to get to it. And you also need to make sure that you don't over-tighten. As it stands right now, I over-tightened way too much. That is too much force to have to move that. So we just back it out ever so slightly. There we go, now we're talking. With minimal movement up and down, that is how that should be installed. Then we can go ahead and put our pulley back in place, and we can tighten this in place as well. This will be our 17mm or 5/8, depending on if you're using metric or standard. And we'll go ahead and tighten that down as well. Just like so. Alright, so the next thing we're going to install is your leg extension cable. The easiest way I've found to do this is to go ahead and run it through your first set of pulleys that you have here. So we're going to go up through there and down through here, then on the bottom of this pulley. Gotta make sure we get it. So there is a guide rod in there that you want to make sure you hit. You want to stay above it. Alright, that should be enough for now. So we'll take this. You'll notice that the cable on the end has a large ball on it. You're going to remove this plate. So this plate should be installed on this. You go ahead and pop that plate off, insert the ball in there, put the plate back on, redo the 4 screws that hold the plate in place. So if I can get my hands to work here, go ahead and get one started. Now all of yours should sit flush. This is a floor model. It looks as if somebody may have, unfortunately, cross-threaded one of these so they don't sit all the way down, but yours should sit all the way down. You shouldn't have that problem as long as you get them started with your fingers and don't cross-thread. Should not have that issue. And I think one of them is cross-thread. I might be wrong. If it is, then I can show you what a cross-thread bolt looks like. Well, never mind. Looks like we're all good on all 4 of those bolts. So, no cross thread there, which is a plus. Next thing we're going to do is we need to mount this and the leg extension in unison. So, the way we do that is we go ahead and we pick this bad boy up and we feed that cable back through as much as we can. And you're going to go ahead and put these numbers up because you want them to line up with this pin right here. And then we're literally just put this over the top. What we're going to do is we're going to try and find a pin that it can sit in, just so. That'll keep us lined up. And then if you come over onto this side, You can see right here that there is a locking mechanism for this bolt. So you do not need a washer on the head side of the bolt. We'll go all the way in. So, and then you need a washer and nut for the other side. And then I believe this is going to be another 3/4 bit. I would suggest just using a hand wrench because that bolt on the right side is going to be locked into place, and you need to find the tightness that allows this to move freely without getting stopped. You see how this kind of hesitates as it comes down? That's more resistance than we want. So we'll just do the 1/8 turn to the left. There we go. See how it just falls right in place? That's what we want. Right. And in order to finish this properly, all we need to do is this last floating pulley. So we will take this floating pulley and we will take our cable. There's a pulley right down here on the bottom that we're going to go ahead and route through. Yep, we come up through that, and then we take our floating pulley and we set it inside so, and then we go ahead and we put the pulley in place just like this. There we go, and now we're locked into that pulley. Now, that pulley needs to be run through this wire. In order to do that, we need to take this guy back out. So if you're doing this yourself, maybe leave this one unattached while you're doing the legs. Save you a little bit of hassle. But then again, it's not that big of a deal, right? Right? So we'll trace it all the way back to our double pulleys. And then we will route it through our hanging pulley, just so. Wonderful. And then we will go back up through our double pulley, just like this. Look at that. Now we're talking. And then back down through this guy. Huzzah. And then back in to our initial hanger here. Come on, there we go. We go up and through, maybe? There we go. I will say some of this stuff gets a little tedious. Don't get discouraged, just keep going. You get it. I've had single parts on machines that have taken me a half hour to get because they are just extremely precise. So, we got our hanging pulley set up now. We got a couple more steps and we'll have a full machine. So our next step is to run this side cable. Like I said, this is what you're going to do for any low cable function, curls and things of that nature. So we just feed it through the bottom here. There is a cable guard right there that we need to make sure that we hit. And then we will be going through this pulley. So, through this low pulley right here, towards the machine, like that, and then we go all the way up. We need to make sure that we're not crossing our cables, so we'll route under that cable. And through here, that there should be the location of that cable. That's going to be the cable that you utilize for your abs. Any crunches or any of that kind of stuff you're going to be doing with this cable. And just like the first one I showed you, we're going to put the ball on, put the actual cable in through the slotted groove. Then we're going to put the bolt through that slotted hole there and just refasten. Only need to do finger tight for now because we may need to make some adjustments. So we're all set there. Our next step is going to be installing the weight stack. fairly easy. Earlier on, I told you that we went ahead and we put these in just for additional support. We can go ahead and take these out and take that top plate off. We need our guide rods to be mobile. So as long as we can get them to move backwards a couple inches, that should be enough for us to get our plates on. So the mobility we have right here, that is just enough. That's as much as we need. Luckily for me, all of my weights are already labeled, but you will have to label them yourself. We use 1 through 16. We usually put the 1 on the top pin. It is about 10 pounds. These are all rounded up weights. The manufacturer actually states that that top pin is actually about 7 pounds, but they have us round up to 10, just so you know. Also, before you put these on, you need to put your spacers on. So these are a little different than some of our other systems. A lot of our other systems use plastic. These use metal. 2 metal spacers and your 2 rubber spacers. Metal goes down first, rubber on top of it. The rubber is where your weight stack is actually going to make contact. I'm good. All right. All right, those are our spacers. Make sure this plate is clear of any cables. Last thing you want to do is get a cable stuck under there and get all 160 pounds on, because then you'll just have to take it all back off. And that's no fun. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach your shroud mount, which is also what locks your guide rods in place. So if you come back to the rear of the machine with me here, what we need to do is we need to put this on the outside of the bars, just like so. And we'll take one of our bolts, feed it through. Now you'll see that this whole piece will sit a little lower. There we go, we just push on through there. We'll go ahead and put the right bolt, the right washer and nut on. And then we'll go ahead and do the same on the other side. Just like this. My apologies, sounds like I'm Mr. Popular today. All right, now that we have this on, we'll go ahead and we'll take our cable and we'll go ahead and get this attached to our weight stack. So here we are. We'll just get we only need about a ½ inch of that into the weight stack, because we need to make sure that we are fully operational. So what I'll do is I'll take out my pin, leave my little 10-pound plate, and then I will go through and I'll pull on everything. So we'll do a little leg movement, make sure there's nothing hanging up there. Move the arms, make sure nothing's hanging up there, we're good. This all should feel smooth. There should be no scraping or any kind of hesitation other than the weight. You'll feel it. It's clear as day. If you feel any of that, just trace the cable back, see if it's hopped off of any of the pulleys or is pinched in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Correct that, and you should be back to good. All right, so our next step is going to be adding our upholstery. First thing I like to do is to put our back pad on. Easiest way to do that is just to push the seat all the way forward so you can get your hand back there. And we're going to start by just hand tightening. Again, we just want to make sure that we are not cross-threading anything, because if we do, then we're going to have a problem. There we go. And you can go ahead and tighten this down as soon as you get it in with your hands. It's fine. This isn't something that we will need to adjust. All right, seat to it while it's still off of the machine. So you can just like this, just take it. Our narrow end is going to go towards the front of the machine, which is right here. We're going to start these with your fingers. I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing me say it by now, but we start with our fingers just so we don't cross-thread our bolts. We cross-thread our bolts, we got to get new ones. Now these are going to be 17 millimeter or 5/8, and we can go ahead and tighten these down as soon as you get them in, just like that. And then all you got to do is take it and set it in place. What did Ronco used to say? Set it and forget it. There you have it. All right, so we got a couple other pieces we need to put on here. We have these guys. These work as back pads and holders for your legs if you're doing pull downs. Just like that. Now we're going to attach our press arm. There's really only one way that you can put this press arm on. So if you're worried about is it going to be on backwards or what have you, really just pay attention to the fact that your pin is going to be on the right side if you're facing the machine. And then you also see on the right side of the mount for your arms, you'll see there is a pin guide right here. So that's the only way you can install it. So we go ahead, we'll pick it up, and we can do this a couple of different ways. The way I usually like to do it is go ahead and put the pin in one of those holes so we know it's lined up at least that much, and then we can fine tune it into place. Once you get that bolt lined up, go ahead and slide her in. A little bit more difficult than it wants to be today. Let's try that again, shall we? Oh, there's another instance of where having two people might be better. But you can do it with just one. Just takes a little patience. There we go, now we're in. Like I said, just be patient, you'll get it. There you have it. So, at this point, I would suggest tightening down everything. So that's going to be your 17 millimeter socket, 17 millimeter wrench. Start from the top, slowly work yourself down and out. So after installing the arm, your next step is going to be to put on your M2 shield. This is basically just branding. This lets you know what you got. You'll see there's a little slot right here. You take that tab, insert it into that slot, and then you may have to apply a little bit of pressure to get this screw to where it needs to go. You can go ahead and pilot it with your fingers and then drive it with your screwdriver. And that's all it takes to install that plate. You'll also want to go ahead and install the headrest for your unit, which is just your standard 17 millimeter screws that we've been using throughout the entire thing. Go ahead and take this. Now I know as you're watching this video, you're seeing me pull most of these bolts out of the piece that they're in. All of yours will be in your bolt packs. They are all labeled in step number. So you can follow along with me, build it how I build it, or you can use me as reference, whatever works for you. All right, now that we got those piloted with our fingers, we can go ahead and just drive them in. Boom, boom. All right, so our last step here is actually going to be our shroud. So the Inspire M2 uses a cloth shroud, as you can see right here, and we use a tension system to hang this. Easiest way to do this is to go ahead and set your rods in it like I already have. You'll see these oval shaped rods. You just got to feed them in through it. And then you go ahead and put it onto the weight stack by going by the guide rods first, thinnest part of the machine. You hit those guide rods, then guide it all the way down. Then do the same with the top, guide rods first, then all the way up. So we can just set this here for a second. We need to grab our pins. You'll get 6 of these pins. And it's literally just push the pins in. Line the holes up, push in the pins. It's really that simple. Nothing else to it. Push your pins in. Now, depending on how much tension is on this, it might be a little harder to get our bottom pins in. Oh no, we're golden. So we just need a little tiny pull down and put your pins in. Just like that. If you put your pins in and your shroud is all wrinkly and whatnot and you want to add more tension to it, you just come up top here and you have these 2 bolts. You're just going to want to spin those. Those will pull the top of this away from the guide rods, giving you more tension, therefore taking out any creases or anything along those lines. Very last step we have here is to attach all of your accessories. So this is going to be your curl bar. This comes out from your low pulley system. So you just go ahead and you connect that into here. Now you don't necessarily need to keep this on the machine. There is storage for this. You can just pop it off and throw it into storage. Boom. You got storage. And then here's your lat pull down. This is a 3-hole lat pull down. This comes standard with all these Inspire pieces. So we just connect that center one, lock that into place. And then these, I usually just attach these to where you're going to do your abs. So you can just pull them over your shoulders and do crunches. That is a fully assembled Inspire M2. If you have any questions or concerns about the Inspire M2, please feel free to reach out to us at usfitness.com, or you can come on in the store. We got plenty of people who can help you.